Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strykers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60. Yeah, baby, we are buckled up. Hello and welcome to Thursday afternoon footy here on Soccer in 60. Friday Eve, the weekend is on the horizon, and I couldn't think of anything better. I guess I could, but not on a family-friendly show. But nothing better than to hang out with my buddy. My name's Christian Filliman, better known as Philly, and my buddy is Tim Kolotz. Tim, how we doing, my guy?
Philly, I'm doing great, man. It's always a joy to be with you on Si60. And you know what, Philly? I did really enjoy your live remote from the stadium last night. And I really especially liked the homage to Corey Hart.
Corey Hart, absolutely. Tim, first and foremost, just on a more serious note, I just wanted to say condolences, my man. For those of you unaware, Tim lost his mother last week. And look, I just wanted to say, my heart goes out to you, bud, you and your family. Like, I hope we can have some laughs tonight and give you a good time today. There was ever a time you could have taken a break, it would have been now. But I know how much you love doing the show, and I'm really happy that you're here, man. Like, nothing but the utmost love and respect for you.
Thanks, Philly. You guys, everybody associated with the show has been really, really good to me. And it's been a tough week for the family. But you know what? She had all 6 of us kids were in her room the other day, a couple of days before she passed away. And I think that's really why she was just able to look to God and say, hey, it's cool, man. Take me now. I've had 88 great years on this earth, man. Come and get me.
Respect, nothing but love. And hey, now she's going to get to see her son become a podcasting superstar from the heavens. And that's not necessarily the worst thing either. And, that being the case, again, I'm glad you're here, man. Like, you're
Thanks,
a trooper, buddy. And I got nothing but love and respect. And speaking of love and respect, no doubt. Speaking of love and respect, Tim, you know what we got to do, right?
Oh, yeah, we do.
We got to pay some bills. And with that being the case, heading to the game, hop aboard Omnitrans for a seamless journey to Toyota Arena. Simply download the Transit app to catch your bus and enjoy a stress-free trip, to cheer on the Strikers. That's right, Omnitrans. And speaking of journeys, I myself took a journey yesterday, Tim, to BMO Stadium for the first time since LAFC lost to the Seattle Sounders in the postseason. Let me tell you something. I live in Burbank, and I left around 5-ish. It normally would take an hour at that time. But by the time I got around Martin Luther King, the exit to where I would get off to go to LAFC, the traffic was backed up, and I swear it took me nearly as much time getting off the ramp to get to the parking lot as it did to get from Burbank to LA. And even on the shoulder of the highway, Tim, you had people coming in and selling Club America gear. Club America Giants in Liga MX are currently in first place in the Clausura. But, dude, it was such a crazy day of traffic.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I saw you on Insta at Philomonster44, right? Got to give you a little plug there. Yeah. But I was just wondering how that was and how many people were there and just trying to get to the stadium, especially for the first one, preseason or schmee season, it doesn't matter. You're putting 25,000 people in the stadium, and there's probably another couple thousand just creeping around outside, right?
Well, I mean, if you had 25,000 in the stadium, Tim, you'd have a lot of overflow because the bank only holds about 22. But there were some empty seats. But even as the game started, it looked like there was a crowd coming in. And again, Club America is one of the biggest and most successful clubs in Mexico, along with their arch rivals, Chivas de Guadalajara. There was a sea of yellow there. They had their supporters group on the opposite end of where the 3252 was, and they were loud. They lit up the smoke. They had the drums. So, I mean, it felt like a playoff atmosphere. It was really exciting from that perspective. The first time ever that I heard LAFC take the field, the public address announcer got on there, and the place erupted in boos. I was flabbergasted.
Well, when you're putting in that many people, and I could only imagine it's got to be at least a third or so that were filled up with Club America guys, right? Of course you're going to get that.
I think a lot more than that. I mean, I think
really?
Could have been 55%, 60% Club America supporters.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty impressive that they're just coming out of the woodwork for that. And I'll talk about that a little later on about another, some other stuff in Leagues Cup with Galaxy. But that's pretty impressive that they're putting in, 10, 11, 12,000 people into that stadium for Club America. It's amazing.
I still think more, but keep in mind that, a lot of the supporters do have, their roots and fans have their roots in Mexico. And a lot of them support either Chivas de Guadalajara or clubs like Club America, Monterrey, Tigres. Some of the big clubs out there. But that being the case, this isn't the first time that LAFC has seen this team. In fact, they've played each other twice. One time within the CONCACAF Champions Cup where LAFC won 3-1. How many gripes, though, about what happened at the end with Edward Atuesta. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Back in 2022 at SoFi, they played Club America again in a friendly, and there was another packed house. That was a game that went 0-0, and then Club America won in a shootout. And so here we are, a very tough contest for LAFC, Tim. They've had their preseason games, but Club America is 6 games in on top of the Clausura, and it was exciting. It was intense. You could tell that one team was a bit more seasoned than the other, but one thing that hasn't changed, Brian Rodriguez on Club America got the start. He was a member of LAFC. One of the best comments I heard throughout the course of the game, I was hanging up in the press box with my buddy JR, who I do the LAFC Defenders of the Bank podcast with. That'll be live later on today. There's a shameless plug. But I was chatting with the voice of LAFC and Apple TV broadcaster Max Bredos. Brian was so wide open at one point on top of the box, and he missed a wide shot. And Max was like, yep, same old Brian.
Well, that's why he's not with LAFC anymore, right?
Oh, my God. Speaking of which, you bring up something. So looking on the rosters, right?
Oh my God.
We didn't see any Christian Oliveira, Kike Oliveira. So I don't know what his agent's telling him. He's holding out. He wanted to play in Uruguay. But Tommy Scoops reported earlier on Wednesday that it looks like he's going to be heading to Gremio for about $4.5 million, roughly, with a huge sell-on clause. So I don't think LAFC expected to sell him, but obviously with how he was holding out, they had to do something. We talked about it on this very show, whether or not the supporters would be happy having him come back. But now LAFC looks like they're going to make that announcement. He gets to stay in South America, and, well, he's going to have to work on his Portuguese because Grêmio is in the Brazilian First Division. That's a pretty big club, but from what I hear, again, the LAFC potentially doubles their money, and if they sell him on afterwards, they're going to retain a huge part of that.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, and we're going to get into this general allocation money and the sell money and the sell-on money. We talked about that last week with Orange County, potentially getting some sell-on money for one of their players that they had originally sold a year ago. That's a big deal when you put that into your clause and you get to have a couple of extra bucks, and sometimes, $500,000, $1 million when it's a sell-on clause in that contract. And that just goes into the company coffers, and that allows you to go get other guys or build into your infrastructure so that you can have much better training facilities and things like that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And they retained a ton of money, gained a lot of money on the sell of Matty Bogusz to Cruz Azul. And now we have another 4.5 potentially once that gets reported. So nearly $15 million on those two players. But that comes at the expense of the attack. Because, last night we saw Denny Bouanga did Denny Bouanga things. He had an outstanding game. But now LAFC is really going to have to rely on Olivier Giroud, which I got to tell you, he didn't look great last on Wednesday, on what was it, Tuesday night. Didn't look great at all. Got beat up quite a bit. David Martinez, the young Venezuelan, he got the start. They took him out after the first half. But then they put in Nathan Ordaz, the old razzle-dazzle, and he got himself a goal. It was a fun game, back and forth. I anticipated that it was going to be a tie. And look, Club America didn't have one of their best players, Anthony Martin. He did not play in the game, but they did feature Alejandro Zendejas. That was a player that John Thorrington looked to bring from Liga MX over to LAFC, and that was close call. But alas, the game had no goals within the first half. And then in the second half, just immediately off of a bad turnover by Club America, Denny Bouanga made the Liga MX Giants pay early seconds, really, minutes in to the second half. And then they ended up getting another goal off of a counter that was led again by Denny Bouanga. Through ball. Giroud did do something well. He was a false nine and allowed a through ball. And then Nathan Ordaz scored the old razzle dazzle. So that was an exciting game to watch, and really impressed with the boys. All things considered, you get going up against a team that's already played 6 games, and they managed to stick with it. They ended up winning by a score 2-1, and it was a highly entertaining game. I know Apple TV had some problems with it, the broadcast, but we saw it perfectly in the press box.
Yeah, and that's one of the things about being in a seat at the game is that you don't have the transmissions feeds. I mean, we're not shy to adhere with some of our interview guests, or even me every now and then we'll have some of that. So it's much better to be at the game, and I'm glad that it was entertaining. And as you said, they're on top of the division, top of the league, and they're already 6 games into their season. And LAFC is finding their feet. They're making sure that they have all their gear in their locker room and things like that at this point, because they're still a couple of weeks away from the season. But to put on that type of display and have a bunch of guys contribute and do a lot of things, and as you say, Giroud is learning that false nine, and it's good. It's good to get some of the new guys and getting them on the score sheet. And we talked about it last week. Giroud did get on the score sheet last time, and that's all we can ask for, is for everybody to start get comfortable with them, because there has been a fair amount of turnover on the LAFC roster.
Yeah. Speaking of turnover, like one of the players, I mean, the midfield obviously looks completely different. We saw the 21-year-old that Igor Jesus, that was erroneously reported that he was going to be going to the Galaxy, but LAFC got him. He sort of looks like Portland's Evander, although I don't know, Evander's not really Portland anymore, but it's the big physical presence and within that midfield. He looked pretty solid, although he had an awful turnover in the box that led to a Club America goal. If it was regular season, everybody would have lashed out and let him have it. But I think he became a little gun shy afterwards, because he didn't try to get through anybody while they were in the box, trying to dribble out of trouble. So he's got some stuff to learn, obviously. So we got to see him, very physical person. I mean, he may be a walking yellow card. So that would be something to bet on, the over and under on on how many yellow cards that Igor Jesus gets on the season. But he got the start. Marky Delgado out of the Galaxy got the start. We chatted with him in the press conference afterwards. I don't think he believes yet still that he's on LAFC, because he was asked about it and he's like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, it seemed like he was there, but at the same time, I think he was trying to walk a very thin line to not obviously alienate the fans that he's developed there over the time he was there, but obviously not to say anything that would upset the LAFC supporters either. So that's an interesting tale. Now, I know LAFC, the day after the Club America game, had another preseason game, closed door, but not really any information on that. They're starting the season right away on the 19th against the Colorado Rapids. The 18th, Tuesday the 18th, against the Colorado Rapids in the CONCACAF Champions Cup in Commerce City at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And you and I talked about this, how upset we were that, oh God, it's the Rapids. Really? We're getting the Rapids to start things out. But if you think about it, now they've only had like 24 days to really prepare for the season. That's not a lot of time. You'd rather go up against a team that's had the same amount of preparation, as opposed to going up against a team that's, a quarter, a third, 6 games into their season. So I think that actually works to LAFC's advantage.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think LAFC is they're going to get it together. They're going to put together a good show, and they're going to be ready for that season opener. And even though it is, not anywhere near Denver and Commerce City, I think it's going to be good for LAFC to go out and get in there. And, a little bit of coldness has never hurt anybody, right, Philly?
Ugh, don't remind me. I hate being cold. It's 53 degrees today in Los Angeles, and I had to damn near put on a parka. But anyway, that's that. And you mentioned season opener. So there's CONCACAF Champions Cup. They will be back at BMO Stadium on February the 22nd, Saturday at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, to take on the Loons. So that's your LAFC news, and it was nice to be back there. And for more LAFC news, make sure you check out defenders of the bank with Philly and the scarf. That's all LAFC stuff. Now that we've talked about the black and gold, let's talk about the defending champs.
Yeah, let's get into the defending champs a little bit. And the big signing within the past 24 hours has got to be the continued gutting of the Columbus Crew as forward Christian Ramirez joined the team. And this is another one of these things where it's all GAM money, right? There's no players leaving the Galaxy, but Columbus picks up $250,000 in general allocation money both this year and next year. And the Galaxy are spending some of that money that they've got on some of their players that they've had go away, and with their other offseason moves. And Christian comes in with this guy's going to be good on the Galaxy, I think. And 23 goals and 12 assists in his last 77 matches across all comps. Not too shabby. And if you really look at it across what he's really done across his last 160 games, he's got 51 goals and 20 assists. It's almost a half a point a game. So he's being part of 71 different goals across 160 games, in a league where, 2 goals is about the average on a standard game, 2.5 goals. Not too bad if you can put a kid into the lineup that, he's not a kid, but he's 33. But you put a guy into the lineup that's averaging half a point a game. I think it's a big deal to put him up on top and have him get some of the balls that are coming in and putting these things home.
He also has championship experience. Let's not forget about that. I mean, he did win the MLS Cup with the Columbus Crew back in 2023. It's part of that Leagues Cup team that won in 2024, was on that CONCACAF Champions Cup runner-up team that lost in 2024. And yes, Christian Ramirez, I guess the most important thing is he gets to come home. He's from Santa Ana, California, started his collegiate career in the Big West playing for UC Santa Barbara before he went over to Concordia. Orange County Blue Stars, where he got his start. Then he really came in to Minnesota United. I mean, he's going to go down as a legend in Minnesota United's history. And then he did have a very short stint with LAFC. I'll never forget that first season, 2018. He scored a couple of goals against LAFC as a member of Minnesota United. Then LAFC picked him up, and, well, he got started right off the bat. Right off the bat, if my memory serves me correctly, which I got to say at the age of 44, it's starting to fade quite a bit. I'm not making it sound like I have Alzheimer's or anything, God forbid. But, I mean, I think he scored in that playoff game in 2018 against Real Salt Lake. I think at that point, my buddy Scarf and I were looking to book flights to Seattle, and then we got Damir Krylocked by RSL and got knocked out. The problem with Christian Ramirez, though, is whether or not he can score goals. And yes, he can. But when he was in LA last time, didn't have a great deal of success, would miss some sitters that you and I had no ability to miss. In fact, in some cases, the misses he had, you had to have skill to miss like that because it was crazy, some of the misses he would have. But he is a goal scorer, has been, didn't really have a successful time with LAFC. I mean, I got to see his career firsthand at LAFC. Got to spend some time in the Scottish Premier League playing against the likes of Celtic and Rangers. Aberdeen, of course, the club that Sir Alex Ferguson came from before he went to Manchester United. So a lot of interesting roots. But yes, a good signing, solid, and a local kid gets to come back to play for, well, the local side, I guess you can say. So, I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm very curious to see and feel what kind of reception he's going to get when he comes into BMO Stadium. But then the same thing could be said about Marky Delgado. What kind of a reception is he going to get at Dignity Hill Sports Park? A lot of the interesting crisscrossing going on between LAFC and the LA Galaxy as of late.
Yeah, and this is all new to us again, right? Because these are the first year that there's been a real trade. There's been a couple of free agencies or whatever. But this, these types of things that, like you said, the LAFC fans will remember him from that 2018 and a little bit in 2019 with the club. Another
what
signing.
I remember is the question. I mean, I remember him missing sitters. So if I can remember that, I'm sure other fans probably have an even more faded memory about what his time was like.
Well, then they're probably happy as a clam that he's on the Galaxy. Maybe they'll miss a few for him too during the El Trafico.
That's a darn good point. He was Brian Rodriguez before there was a Brian Rodriguez.
Oh man. Well, there's been another signing by the Galaxy this week too, with Lucas Sanabria from the Uruguayan Primera Division, and he's a young guy. Now, I want to bring this up for a couple of reasons, Philly. He signed a 5-year deal, and it shores up some of the midfield that's missing with Ricky Pooch out until probably summertime. You're seeing some of these longer term deals, and this is a little different than what we've been saying with some of the other clubs, and especially with like if we cross over to Angel City just for a hot second, you're seeing longer term deals, especially for these younger players in MLS versus what you're seeing here. And I'm just wondering if that's because they're able to get them, keep them, train them, sell them, or if it's more so because they're going to get them, train them, keep them for that full 5 years.
The model in this league has changed over the years. When they were trying to build it up, well, obviously in the 96 era, it was a whole different model. But then you fast forward to the Beckham era. And then from there, it was really about signing the global superstar to help put cheeks in seats and obviously to win. And, well, the Galaxy set the mold for that type of business. I mean, they bring in Beckham. They brought in the Robbie Keanes of the world. I mean, so many, the Zlatans, now Marco Reus, but obviously his career has yet to develop. I can't say he had a solid year last year. No way he did. No. But that was the old model. But then you see some of these other clubs within Major League Soccer that have done the exact opposite. And I'm going to start with Atlanta United because I don't want to make it sound too biased, LAFC. They had a player by the name of Miguel Almiron out of Paraguay. The kid was a fantastic player. They Atlanta United, they won their MLS Cup back many blue moons ago. But afterwards, they sold him off to Newcastle in the English Premier League for about $26 million. That's a good deal of business. And now Miguel Almiron is obviously I forget. I know he was linked to coming back to the U.S., but my brain is just so. Oh, yeah, he went back to Atlanta United. How foolish of me. So stupid. Where his career ended up starting. So that's been the model. You get them, you develop them, you sell them. Just like LAFC sold Matty Bogusz. Just like, obviously, now they sold Kike Oliveira. Like with Diego Rossi. Again, I don't want to make this too LAFC-centric, but you want to find that young player, and mainly out of South and Central America, because that's where a lot of this talent is coming from. Develop them and sell them at a profit. That's the business model. That's what this should be, a seller's league with a little sprinkle of the older superstar to razzle and dazzle the crowd.
Yeah, perfect. And that's what I was kind of thinking. I just wanted to get that a little bit from your side as well. But the Galaxy have had a couple of preseason games out at the Coachella Valley Invitational. And our guest from last week, JT Marcinkowski, he's getting some playing time. So the Galaxy are being very smart with being in this CVI, because what they're doing is they're jamming a whole bunch of guys in there. We're not getting a whole lot about games, and we're getting the scores, a 2-2 tie with Charlotte and a 2-1 win the other day, but we're not getting a whole lot of extra stuff. And I'm even trying to get through some of my back channels, and they're just not giving it up because they want to make sure that they're getting everybody. And while they're taking these games seriously, and it's a great event for the fans, they're really working on making sure that they're getting all of their new signings and making sure who's going to be on that roster come day one, just here in a couple of weeks, that they're really dialed in. And, to get up and play the San Diego Wave just in a couple of weekends here, they're going to have to make sure that they
San Diego Wave.
Or San Diego Wave. Man.
Like, whoa.
Money on that one. Yeah, there's going to be a couple of these games against San Diego FC that are going to be a lot of fun. So, sorry if I'm a little bit delayed, but hopefully we'll fix that and
fix that. It's okay, and get you're that old. Taken care of.
Hey,
you're old.
But they did announce the League's Cup schedule, and the first match is going to be against Xolos Club Tijuana on July 31st. And it's going to be at Dignity Health. But I think, Philly, and you'll appreciate this one. You mentioned them a minute ago. I think the more intriguing match, even though he's not going to be playing at LAFC, is but Matty Bogusz is going to come back to LA, and he's going to come and play at Dignity Health Sports Park in that second match for League's Cup.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's gonna get the nice booing because I'm sure Galaxy supporters remember him from his time with LAFC. I know Matty actually got the start in the CONCACAF Champions Cup just the other day against Real Hope. He didn't score in the game, but I mean, they obviously threw a lot of money his way because they need a kid as talented as he is, and he ended up getting the start with Omar Campos, by the way. So they've got Bogusz operating in that forward position where he didn't start his LAFC career that way. He ended up operating as a midfielder before moving as a forward. But yes, you're right. He will be back playing. And look, Cruz Azul, another very big and heavily followed club. So expect a lot of blue in the crowd. And I don't mean Galaxy blue.
No, I expect that to be very similar to what you saw just the other day with Club America, is that they will come out in force and they will fill up that stadium.
Yeah, that they will. I mean, there's a lot of Liga MX supporters in this part of the world, and I like that league, man. I don't know if you've ever followed it, but the Clausura, the Apertura, I'm a fan of how it operates, but more on that later. With that being said, let's move on over to the Empire Strykers. But before we do, bill paying time. Soccer and 60 is brought to you by National Core, one of the nation's largest not-for-profit affordable housing developers and a proud sponsor of your MASL team, the Empire Strykers. At National Core, they believe that soccer has the power to transform lives just like they do. They believe in building strong communities on and off the field. To learn more about National Core and their mission, go to nationalcore.org. All right, MASL time. Now, no MASL games to talk about for the Empire Strykers, but there was an all-star game that took place on Wednesday the 12th at the Adirondack Bank Center in Utica, New York. Pretty darn cool. Team Pereira versus Team Kelvin. The game was won by Team Kelvin. The Empire Strykers had some representation in that of Marco Fabian playing for Team Pereira. I'm sorry, Justin Stinson playing for Team Pereira and Marco Fabian playing for Team Kelvin. And for Marco, didn't really have an impact in the game because Kelvin Oliveira got all the accolades. Kelvin Oliveira and Alex Sanchez from the Milwaukee Wave. It was a close game up until the fourth quarter, and then Team Kelvin blew it all up. Of course, a couple of empty netters, some sitters, so on and so forth. But the Empire Strykers' very own Justin Stinson did assist on a goal that put Team Pereira within one in the third period. Justin got the dime to IB26 himself, Ian Bennett, a legend of the indoor game. And the All-Star game ended up winning. It was Team Kelvin winning by a score of 7-3. But I was just so happy that the All-Star game came back. They hadn't done one since 2020. It was pretty darn cool. So that's the story with that. They also had a skills competition, but it was 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I didn't get a chance to watch it. I got to go back to watch it on the replay.
Yeah, and hopefully catching that on the replay, it'll be hopefully the skills competition will be good. I couldn't catch it either, but watching that MASL All-Star game happening, it's fantastic to have that thing back after a very long and well-awaited wait.
Absolutely. And with that being said, look, Empire Striker segment, it wouldn't be an Empire Striker segment without talking to an Empire Striker. And we bring in Tony De La Torre, number 47 on the roster sheet. We had a nice little sit down with him earlier on. Let's go to that interview real quick. If you looked up climbing the ladder in a dictionary, the entry might very well feature a photo of today's guest. Originally from Kansas, he made the big jump to Southern California 3 months ago to compete at the highest level of pro indoor soccer with the Empire Strykers. After playing high school, college, high-level amateur soccer, second division arena soccer, and finally top-tier arena soccer as a fringe player, all in his home state, less than two-thirds into his current campaign with Empire, he has already doubled his appearance totals from last season with the Kansas City Comets. He's a midfielder with the Strykers, and we're so thrilled to have him on. Antonio, known as Tony De La Torre. Tony De La Torre, welcome to Soccer and 60, my man.
Thank you. Thank you, Philly. Thank you, Tim. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, super psyched to have you on the show. Obviously, super psyched to have you in Ontario as well. Got to catch a couple of your games, the 6 that you played at Kansas City, and we saw a lot of stuff. And we're going to get into that. Now, you said when you first signed that one of your goals for the season was to collect your first attacking points in the MASL. You're able to check that box, having recorded a goal and an assist. More importantly, you've gone from 6 appearances last season with Kansas City to being among the most trusted players on Empire's roster with 12 out of a possible 15 appearances. Like, how does that feel for you so far with the Strikers? Is it what you're hoping? Is it what you were hoping for when you decided to join the club?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely what I was hoping, and that's why, I moved over here. That's why I made the move, to get more games in, get my first points finally, and just all around become a team player. Just not be a guy that gets called up when I'm needed, but a guy that's playing every game and is a team player for the team and wins games for the team.
Tony, come on. I imagine the weather was somewhat of an appeal as well after living in Kansas City, brother.
Yo, no, that definitely had a factor as well. It's insane to me. Like, I come outside in shorts and a t-shirt and it's December. It's honestly new to me, but I'm loving every second of it.
Just wait till your friends start clowning you for wearing sweaters at 65 degrees. It happened to me. I'm from the Northeast. Now, I know that your former Kansas City teammate, Robert Palmer, defender of the year, who rejoined the Strikers during the offseason, was instrumental in bringing you with him. Like, talk a bit about how that went down back then. Like, did he advocate on your behalf and get you signed before you even came into town? And what role would you say he's played in helping you transition both on and off the field?
So it's pretty crazy, honestly, because back in Kansas City, me and Berto really didn't talk much to begin with. Like, we really didn't talk much at all. And then this opportunity came after season. He knew that it didn't go too well for me, and that that I was a good player, and he gave me the opportunity to come over here. He told me they're building a young team, brand new team over here, bringing in lots of players. I'm gonna bring you over here, and I'm gonna give you a chance, but. I started off here on a trial, so I came to try out. I didn't get the team right away, but after 2 or 3 days, I signed a contract, and it's, again, all thanks to him. He really helped me out with the process, and he's been a mentor for me.
Well, a little bit of thanks has got to go to you, too, to be, playing well to get that contract. So good on you there, Tony.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was because we had a different coach at the time, so I went through kind of 2 trials, so, but glad I'm here. Glad I'm talking to you guys, and I'm glad I'm still here.
Yeah, well, we're digging having you here, Tony. And whenever a new player comes and joins the Strikers, one of the, or any new team that we cover, we always like to find out a lot more about them, a little bit of background away from the game. You're still, you're very new to us, and probably to most of the fans that are watching these games. And since it's your first season here and we haven't had you on the show before, let's get into it. What was it like growing up in Dodge City, Kansas, and do you have siblings that you hang out with? And what do you do for fun on a typical day?
So Dodge City, Kansas. So it's about 30,000 people population town. There's not a lot to do, honestly. There really isn't. That's why Dodge City is pretty well known for soccer in Kansas, actually. Just because, there's not a lot to do. We go out, kick a ball around. It's something that we would do every day. Me and my friends and my family. So I have 3 older brothers and an older sister. They all played collegiately soccer. So, again, they've taught me pretty much everything I know. They gave me the right tools to make it over here. And, again, it's all thanks to them as well. And, I like growing up in Dodge just because it was a small city and, it kept me out of trouble, but at the same time, I'm living out here a lot more. I'll be honest.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you out here. And, you mentioned it, you grew up in Dodge City. You played UPSL in your hometown of Dodge City for M2 with the Kansas Bandit. And finally you made the M1 team with the Comets. And now at 26, you made the cross against 2 time zone to play professionally here in sunny Southern California. Although, today it's a little bit rainy, but, it only comes around about a week or 2 a year. How much does this whole thing still like a big, giant adventure to you?
Yeah, it's been an adventure for sure. Just starting off in Kansas City, Before Kansas City, I was working a full-time job. So I got my degree and I went into the workforce right away, working full-time, had a 9 to 5, and then just kind of decided that, I can do this my whole life, but playing soccer, I'm not going to be able to, do that my whole life, because once I'm old, I won't have the skills and won't have the ability no more. And I just thought, one more shot. So that's when I went to the combine, and I really didn't know much about the indoor world. So going to Kansas City, I was just like, oh, it's not just another team. But it turns out, they were the finalists last year, so it wasn't easy getting in there and getting into the squad. But no, it's been an adventure, just going from there to here to, just playing professional at the end of the day. Because right now I could have been working a 9 to 5.
Take it from somebody who's still working in a 9 to 5. You got the rest of your life to be miserable. Enjoy what you got with indoor soccer while you can. And of course, we're going to grill you a little bit more about Cali Live, because none of us in this chat right here are from Southern California. What's life for you been like in SoCal? Like, what do you do when you're not on the turf? I know Tim asked you that. What'd you do for fun in Kansas City? But you said it. You're happy and you're here and you're loving it. What are you doing when you're not playing indoor?
So besides practice, I kind of have like a routine now, just because I've been here a couple of months now. But practice, I go to the gym, I go out and enjoy the weather, go on a hike, go visit new spots, go check out the malls, go check out LA. Again, I just try to stay active. I don't like staying much in my room. I like exploring. I like, exploring what I'm here for. And it's been a good experience overall. Just not the weather, but my friends, my teammates. They've all been really open and welcome to me, and I appreciate that a lot. And they've helped me whenever I need anything, and it's been a good experience.
Awesome. You said this, and I didn't even take this into account, but you're absolutely right. When you first signed, the head coach was Paul Wright. Shortly after that, a new Obasi takes over. He leaves Danbury, Connecticut. A young coach with an innovative approach. He frequently uses his goalkeepers as additional attackers. Like, how long did it take you to get the hang of this system, and where do you feel you guys are at in terms of mastering it?
So as far as the goalkeeper coming out, we've kind of been transitioning away from that. We've been playing with the goalkeeper out, but just whenever we need to. So it's kind of been a little different now, just because we're playing a lot more 5-on-5 without the goalkeeper coming out. But at the end of the day, I think it works. The system's been working. We've won a lot more games than last year. Again, we got a new team as well, so that plays a factor in that. But yeah, it took a while to adjust, because you can't really take a lot of risks with the goalie, right next to you. But no, the guys adjusted, and we've made the system work, and I think it's been working for us, and it's getting us wins.
Yeah, that's great. So let's quickly look at the last couple of games with Chihuahua at home. Obviously, you're up against a very formidable foe in the reigning back-to-back champions. I think it's fair to say that they had you guys' number in the first game, which they won 11-5. But then the team looked massively improved just a few days later in the second game, which was much closer at a 5-6 number in their favor. What did you see over the course of those two matches, and what do you guys feel you did better in the second game to make that thing a really tight contest?
I just feel like the effort we had in the second game was a lot more than the first. I feel like the first game we knew it was Chihuahua, and our first game against them in the season didn't go too well. So we're kind of going in there with our kind of heads down. We weren't expecting to win that game, but then once we got into the game, we were able to, compete for a bit. And that's in the second game, we kind of thought like, hey, why not? Let's beat these guys. We have the team, we have the ability, we have the coach, we have the system. It's, let's try to win this game, because at the end of the day, we're trying to win a championship, and that's the team that we're going to have to compete with. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely got to go through those guys to get to the top of the heap. So next up is a crucial match against Baltimore Blast, in which you guys will be desperate to avoid losing that third straight match and to solidify your current playoff positioning. Not having played Baltimore yet this season, but I'm sure having discussed them at length in team meetings and at training, what are some of the things that stand out about them, and what are you guys focusing on heading into the next home game?
So props to our coach, but he does a really good job, and and having to see what the other team is good at. So he explicitly said that they're good at one-on-ones, that they're good at finding their target, and that's what we've been practicing over the week. So whatever the team has that their strengths are, that's what we practice over the week, and that's what gets us prepared for these next games. But again, they've been doing well this season. They're going to be a good team, and we might see them later off in the playoffs. So just another team to be ready for, and we definitely have to fix that loss streak.
Short turnaround, too. 4 days after y'all play the Blast, you have an away game on the docket against the Texas Outlaws, whom you've already defeated once on the road this season. You played in that game. What can you tell us about going up against Texas at their venue, and what's your mindset heading into that match?
So the first time we faced them, it was their first game of the season, and it was kind of obvious just from the way they played. They're playing against a pretty good team, a brand new team. So they didn't have their best game, but now they are pretty experienced players. They've played multiple games in the league. So it's not going to be as easy as it was the first game. So we're going to go in there just, be ready for anything, because it has to be a must-win game there.
Absolutely. And all right, we've already taken up a fair amount of your time. So I just got a final question for you, Tony. You're on contract through 25-26. Now that you've truly arrived in professional indoor soccer, what are your goals for the rest of the season, both individually and with the team? And have you maybe already thought about what your goals are going to be for your next season with Empire?
So I was actually thinking about this earlier just because I knew the question was going to come up. But again, my first goal just to get here was, to get on the roster, get games in to play, but now my goals have kind of changed. Now I want to get goals. I want to get assists. I'm a player that likes to create. And my next goals would be to get, more stats, get on the stat sheet, more goals, more assists, maybe each game, get a point or something like that. That'd be big for me. But, having new goals. It's always good to keep going and keep thinking of what's next. So maybe having 10 goals next season, maybe having 5 goals by the end of this season would be good.
I love it. Keep on setting that bar high, and you're going to get there. It's been awesome seeing you develop as a player. It's great having you on here, and I'm sure your teammates appreciate your haircut and skills as well. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But, Tony, again, thank you so much for your time. Antonio De La Torre, number 47 on the Empire Strykers. Thank you again so much, my man.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Philly. Thank you, Tim. See you guys.
The Barber of Ontario. That's going to be Tony's name going forward for 2 reasons. He's the team barber, and I caught him doing it several times at the Ontario Airport Hotel. But also, I anticipate him carving up some defenders, improving his stat sheet. But happy for the young man, 26 years old. I laughed when he said, 26, I don't want to be in corporate America. I'm 44 and I don't want to be in corporate America.
Yeah, I kind of giggled in the fact that both of us are in corporate America and he's out living his soccer ball dream after having gone to school, gotten his degree, goes into the workforce, and now he comes out and he's able to catch on with, like you said, Kansas City, coming out of Dodge City, and now he's with Empire and he's signed through next year. So that's a good gig for him and for the club.
Yeah, I mean, when we say coming out of Dodge, literally, that's the case. Now, the Empire Strykers are going to be at home on Sunday, February the 16th, to take on the Baltimore Blast. Tickets are still available. Head on over to the Empire Strykers. That's Strikers with a Y. And we'll be talking about that game. Baltimore Blast, serious competitor this season. And we welcome back Jesus Pacheco, longtime member of the Ontario Fury, and at one point the Empire Strykers. And then the Strikers will be on the road taking on the Texas Outlaws on Thursday, February the 20th, the birthday of Amanda, the Panda Filament. More on that later. So let's move on over to another segment, Tim.
Yeah, let's move over to Angel City. While we don't have our normal Angel City chick, Nina Kiefer, joining us today, you and I are going to get after this a little bit. But, they still don't have a coach, which these things happen,
Do they, though? Do they?
No, they've got a bunch of people on the staff, and they're going to be fine. And as Mark Parsons said a couple of weeks ago on the show, that they're going to get the right coach. He talks about character and talks about this. And that leads me into the signing of an extension, which to their credit, they re-signed goalkeeper Angelina Anderson to a long-term extension. She's signed through 2028. And Philly, this goes against what they've been doing a lot with some of these other players that they brought in. Normally it's been a 1 year, this year with a club option type of thing. And again, Mark Parsons talked really in the announcement, in the press release, he said, he talked a lot about her talent, but he really talked about her high character. And he was really kind of adamant. Now, Philly, we've talked about it several times. I think the team's really going after both. They've got to, it's got to be a 50-50 split, it seems like to me, or they're not going to sign these players.
Tim, you see that scarf up there?
Yes, sir.
I'm pointing to it. What team is that?
Angel City.
Yes, I am a fan of Angel City. I love Angel City. I love what they've done, but I'm not going to lie. It's a little nerve-wracking that there still is no head coach. That's great. You can say all you want about wanting to find the right person for the right system and all that other stuff. But at the time of this recording, we're a day before Valentine's Day. Do you know when Angel City's first game is? It's on March the 16th against the San Diego Wave. Now, I don't care how much character the players have. If there's no system, what the hell is going to happen going forward? I got to tell you, I've never seen anything like this where you got to wait to this long to bring in a coach. It's got to be somewhat frustrating. Maybe people, I can't imagine people don't want the job. But, a month out, no coach, nobody knows what system to play. Sure, bring in all the talent, make Angel City an all-star team. But who's going to run the darn thing? A Ferrari, a Lamborghini, everything is pretty awesome when you look at it, but the darn thing doesn't move unless you have a driver.
Right? You got to put high-octane fuel in it. You got to grease up the wheels. But so I guess the question is, do you think that Parsons will come in and be the de facto coach, even though he said on our show that he's loving the non-coaching aspect of his job? There's got to be some of that. He's got to have his fingerprints on what kind of system they're going to run, don't you think?
Look, a lot of clubs will have an ideology in terms of a system to run. Like certain teams run a system in a certain way. To keep it centralized to this podcast, we'll use LAFC as an example. The system that Bob Bradley had isn't that much different than the system Steve Cherundolo had. They still operated on that 4-3-3 level until Steve changed it up a bit, going with three center backs and changed things up. But it was still supposed to be high pressing, just entertaining, a lot of goals. The system sort of doesn't change, but I don't buy into this plug-and-play strategy. If the team's motto is to operate this way, you still got to know your players. If there's no coach, how are you in? Say they sign a coach within the next week. You got 3 weeks now before the first game. What kind of a training camp do you have? Sure, they'll go to Indio. Sure, they'll go to Coachella. What coach is going to know the player, all the players' tendencies? Get to know them as people. Feel comfortable with them. Understand how to push them. I mean, I think they're really sweating it out right here, and I hope it just doesn't come back to bite them in the butt.
Well, I hope not either. But as you said, what kind of system are they going to run? And will that coach, whether it's in 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, are they going to run that same system that they've been running? I couldn't imagine going into a season or signing with the team, which I'm shocked and amazed that they've signed the level of players that they have, without a coach and without a guarantee of what kind of system they're going to run. I find it challenging at best. My concern is that the first 3-4 games, real games, going into mid-April, 3, 4, 5 games into this, they're still going to be flopping around like a chicken with no head. That's my biggest concern.
That's a fair and legitimate concern. I mean, how do you even predict? How do you even do a season preview when you don't know who's gonna run? Who's gonna be there? Who's gonna coach? Who's that person gonna? I don't want to say he, she, what? Anybody at this point? Sign anybody? Yeah. Not sign anybody. You want somebody of quality, somebody of talent, a reputation, somebody that the players can buy into and believe in. And while if this wasn't Los Angeles and it wasn't Angel City, I'd be darn right angry. Could you like, no, what? LA is an appealing place to go to, period. You and I both know that. This would never work in a place like Utah. This would never work in a place like, I don't know, Kansas City. I just think it's baffling, in particular with who bought in, that they're just still taking their time in this scenario. I'm blown away.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some good news, and we'll hop off of that for a minute. But there has been some international call-ups.
Nice.
Claire Emsley for Scotland. If it's not Scottish, it's wrong show. Claire Emsley is going to play for Scotland, and the Thompson sisters for the U.S. Both Giselle and Alyssa. They're all going to be playing in the Giselle and Alyssa are going to be playing in the She Believes Cup. And one of the cool things that I was reading this afternoon is that Savvy King, one of their new signings, is not going to be on the roster, but she will be with the squad as a training player. And that's
awesome.
going to be, that's pretty cool for Savvy, right? She gets to go in, hang out with the squad, be in that environment, and build on being with some of her teammates, build on that higher level of national team quality. And I think it's great. Alana Kennedy also is going to be playing for Australia. And then Megan Reed is off to Spain for not the Pinata, but the Pinatar Cup. And she'll be playing that. Yeah, we had to verify that. Thanks, producer Gunner. So I think that the level of quality that they're going to get with coaches is going to be fantastic. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for them to go play in that type of environment.
The one thing I do want to say about the call-ups is, congratulations to all of them. But at this point, not surprised that Emsley and the Thompson sisters are getting the call-up, because that's how talented they are. At this point, I'd be more shocked if they didn't get the call-up. So congratulations to them. At least that's going in the right direction. Get a coach! Anyway.
And we'll transition over to Orange County now. And Orange County has been pretty tight-lipped about a couple of things. And connecting with the guys over there, all of their preseason matches, with the exception of one for the season ticket holders, are all behind closed doors. And one of the things that does, it allows the coaching staff to really make some quality changes and not have to be under the scrutiny of the media or like a Tom Borgert and saying, hey, what are you doing? Or me and saying, hey, what are you doing? But one of the big things that has happened is that Pedro Guimarães, who is only 16 years old, got the call up for the U.S. men's youth national team and played in a barn burner of a game the other night against the U.S. Virgin Islands. I say a barn burner because at 22 goals, something had to burn down. Mostly it was the back of the net for U.S. Virgin Islands, because the U.S. notched 22 goals in this match. But one of the things that Pedro went in, played with all these other guys, and he notched a goal in this blowout of the U.S. Virgin Islands. And to see him play last year, I rewatched some of the tape from last year late in the September matches. He's got great positioning, and he played really, really well. And the goal he scored had some fancy footwork at the top of the 18, and he just buried it far post against the U.S. Virgin Islands goalkeeper. And it was really, really fun to play against other national teams, whether it's a 22-0 blowout or not. To see him in that position was really, really fun, Philly.
At 22 goals, the back of the net for the U.S. Islands is the furthest thing from being a virtue.
Yeah, it was definitely on fire. And we've talked about multiple other guys. One of the guys that we talked about a lot last season was Seth Kasipley. And Seth has played really, really well. He's played with Orange County since 2020, and he retired the other day. He's done with professional soccer. He's had a great time. He made over 100 appearances for the County Boys over the last 4 years, patrolling that midfield since, again, 2020. just solid defensively. And I think it's a guy that that they're really going to miss. And Seth is 31. So he's at that age where he's right on the cusp of, hey, I need to go get that 9 to 5 like you and me, Philly.
Oh, no. I mean, like, people want to try to like say, oh, but you're buying in. No, you're selling out. If you can do anything but work in a cubicle farm, I should probably not say this too loud. Who knows if the employer is even listening to this? Yeah, I got to be a little more quiet about this, but the rat race is for the birds. I don't like it. No me gusta.
Well, we all gotta, it's got to get there at some point, unfortunately, for most of us, but he's played really, really well. The County boys are looking to have a couple of more signings before the season kicks off here in just a few weeks. So expect some more stuff out of Orange County. We're going to try and break a thing or two. I know there's some stuff working, and I think it's going to be really, really good for Orange County Soccer Club this year. They got Coach Danny Stone, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch these guys playing down in Irvine. So you can still get season seats. There's still season seats in the place that me and Philly are going to go have a frosty beverage one of these games, and but there is about 3 or 4 that are completely sold out. There's only a couple of sideline seats yet, so get on over to orangecountysoccer.com, pick up a couple of tickets, and hey, come hang out with me. And if you come and say, hey, Soccer and 60, I'll buy you a beer.
Ooh, I like. Does that count for me too?
It does.
You're all about. Wow. Soccer. How many times can I say Soccer and 60 coherently in a day?
So yeah, it's one of the best environments in Southern California, and you can get away for cheap. It's as cheap as going to a Empire Strykers game as you can go see the Orange County boys. So with that, Philly, tell everybody where they can see us on the pod and on radio and everything like that, buddy.
If you Faces for Radio, if you just want to listen to us, you can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And if you feel so compelled to see what we look like, you can head on over to YouTube. Check out the Empire Strykers YouTube page. Again, that's Strykers with a Y. And yes, it was done intentionally. That's where you can find us. And that about wraps it up for this edition of Soccer and 60. Hopefully we get Nina back. Hopefully we get Panda back, because it's going to be right around the time of her birthday upon our next recording. And Tim, once again, it's awesome to see you, and nothing but love, and my condolences again to you and your family.
Thanks, Philly. I appreciate that. And thanks to everybody on the show, producer Gunner, Christian, Nina, Panda, everybody involved with the show has just been amazing. Thanks so much. And you've been listening to Soccer in 60. Have a great afternoon, everybody.